time for the one and the only show. It's the Luke Howard Show, and it's live. So, here we are then. Wow, it's 11 o'clock on Friday the 17th of July. Lovely to have your company today. We thought we'd do it a bit different today and start a bit later. And it feels weird, it feels different. It's not usual to like the usual sort of times that we do it, 10 till 10:45. So we thought to end the week off this week, we thought that we would do it. I thought that I would do it from 11 o'clock to 11:45, and we'll see how it goes today. And if it goes well, maybe next week we might do 3 days, 10 till 10:45, and then 11 to 11:45, Thursday and Friday. Well, it feels different because right now I would usually be packed up and gone and having a big breakfast. Would you believe? Well, it feels very different being here at this time. Very, very different. No, I don't care what time I do the show. I love it. Love it. It's absolutely amazing. It's live. Would you believe? We're live. So we'll see how we go today, and if it goes well today, which I'm sure it will, it always does. This show's Britain's best radio show. It always goes well, and if it does go well today, then we shall we shall do it 2 days next week at 11 to 11:45, and we shall let you all know about that. So, what is coming up on the show today? I do hear you cry. Boo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. So, and we're talking about news, and we're going to be playing music, our usual sort of bits and bobs, but it's just at a different time sort of thing, which sounds amazing, which sounds brilliant. So, okay, so let's talk about some news that has been breaking today. Oh, by the way, if you would like to get in touch with Britain's Best Radio Show, be our guests, go ahead. 07593 847 105 is the number to text or call. If you are texting, I would just start with the word talk and your name and where you're from, and we'll get straight back to you. Or you can call that number, and we'll be happy to chat to you. And we'll try and get you on the show. You can have a little chat, and you can tell us what you're up to. And what are you doing? Are you at home listening to us? Are you in the car? What are you doing? Do let us know. We'd love to hear from you. We really would. And we'll be happy to hear from you. And we'd love to get out there. We'd love to give you a mention on Britain's Best Radio Show. What are you doing? Whatever you're doing, get in touch with us via that way. Or email us. It's GaryJHoward68@hotmail.com. That's my agent's email, by the way. Or you can do the other email, which is 345457@student.hrc.ac.uk. That's 345457@student.hrc.ac.uk. Or you can use the hashtags #Luke Howard, or there's #Luke Howard Show, or there's #Listen to the Luke Howard Show. Or you can find us on Instagram, which is @the Luke Howard fan page. We'd love to hear from you, however you get in touch. We'll be happy to hear from you. So, okay, so let's talk about what's in the news today. Or what are you doing for the weekend? Are you going away? I mean, to be honest with you, I looked online, as I said the other day on this show, I looked online on the internet and I couldn't believe everywhere's fully booked up. So if you are going away this week, lucky you, of course, if you are going away. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful time. Because, of course, a lot of schools break up today. Would usually break up today, but I'm sure a lot of schools have obviously been off. And a lot of schools have even gone back. So I'm sure today will be the last day of a lot of schools, usually would be, about this sort of time. So, okay, now, today's been a very strange day for me. I got up this morning, and I've still got it. It really hurts. I've slept on my neck funny last night. I woke up this morning and I couldn't move it at all. And I thought, oh God, I haven't got an illness or anything. No, I slept on my neck funny, so I can't really move it very much. But I'm all right now. I'm sort of getting better, and yeah. So, news. So let's move to the news. Finally, the news. Woo! So, okay, so we're talking about, I wouldn't really say woo, because we're talking about coronavirus now. And a £3 billion for NHS is to prepare, would you believe, for possible second wave. And the NHS is in a second and will get an extra £3 billion of funding to prepare for a possible second wave of coronavirus. And Boris Johnson is set to announce it later today. So the funding will also help ease winter pressures on the health service in Downing Street. It's also said that it follows a warning of a second wave. This winter could be around 120,000 COVID-19 deaths in UK hospitals. The PM is also expected to use a press conference today to commit to a new target for testing capacity. Under the plans, capacity would be increased to 500,000 coronavirus tests, would you believe, a day by the end of October. Mr Johnson will also publish an additional chapter to the government's COVID-19 recovery strategy roadmap. A call with cabinet ministers to sign off the plan that will take place this morning, and meanwhile Health Secretary Matt Hancock has called for an urgent review into how coronavirus deaths have been recorded in England. Downing Street said that the new NHS funding would be available immediately and would allow the NHS to continue using additional private hospital capability and maintain the temporary Nightingale hospitals until the end of March next year. They would provide additional capability for coronavirus patients, and they will, as a following NHS to carry out a routine treatments and procedures. And Number 10 has also said that non-urgent operations were actually suspended to free up hospital beds as the UK went into lockdown during the first wave of coronavirus. But in May, the NHS England has told hospitals that they should also restart anyway. In normal times, an announcement of £3 billion is to help the NHS in England, and could cope with winter pressures, and it might look generous. But these are not normal times, though, because as the government pumped tens of billions into the economy, would you believe, it's also to soften the blow of coronavirus crisis. The head of the NHS England, this is Simon Stevens, has actually been in talks with the Treasury. So I keep saying Theresa, it's not Theresa. It looks like Theresa, but it's not. It's actually the Treasury, to get guarantees from this Nightingale hospitals and can stay open through until next spring in the case there is another COVID surge, do you believe? He also wanted to secure funding in place to do a deal with private hospitals to help tackle the backlog of cancelled non-urgent operations such as the hip and knee replacements. Now, that money that now seems to have been secured, though, he also awaits further details. The question is, will this be enough to get the health service through what could be one of the most difficult winters in this history, would you believe? I know we've had some winters in the past, but it could also be this winter could be the worst, of course, with all this going on. There has also been predictions that the waiting list for routine surgery will swell to 10 million as fears of a second wave of COVID cases in the depths of winter don't go away. Now, next week on the show, we're going to talk about 10 things that you can do this summer. Of course, we will cover that on the show on Monday, and we will let you know. And we're also going to be talking to Great Aunt Val next week on the show. Tuesday, we're going to be catching up with her as well. We'll talk about that at the end of the show. So a Number 10 spokesman said, thanks to the hard work and secures of the British people, the virus is under control and we have eased restrictions in a cautions phrased away. There have been predictions that the waiting for the routine surgery will swell to 10 million. We said that. And tomorrow he will set out a broad package, that's Saturday, for measures to protect against both a possible second wave and to ease winter pressures to keep the public safe. The spokesman said that the funding for England was new and had not previously calculated well, etc., will be set out for the developed nations in due course. Now, people returning to work, it's going to be announcing the extra. They're going to announce the extra NHS funding, the NHS funding, and the Prime Minister is looking to reassure the public he is serious about dealing with the second wave, which may give him, space to further ease the lockdown. BBC News political editor Nicholas Watt has said that the government sees this is a very important moment as it seeks to open up and the society. And Watt also adds that there has been a lot of decision in government about whether Mr Johnson will be in on Friday today to announce whether people can return to work in a safe way. And I know a lot of people have returned back to work, but a lot of people don't really want to go back to work because they want to go back to work in a safer way as they can, would you believe? The PM is very worried that people are continuing to work from home and means town and city centres are being hollowed and economy. And Watt has also said that the UK's chief scientific advisor Sebastian Wallace told the on Thursday just gone that there was absolutely no reason to change the government's current guidance on the working from home. Now, I know a lot of people have been going back to work at the moment. A lot of people have been working from home, but I'm sure working from home is not the same. You know, because if you go back to work, you're mingling with your friends, you're having a chat, you have your lunch with them, and you do your work. It's not really the same, working from home. And I've said this all along, with the college work that I was sent from my college. I mean, I found that very, very hard. And they all know that I found it very, very hard. And it's not the same working from home because you're not with your friends, as I just said, and you're not socialising, and it's not the same. And I didn't really like it at all. Didn't like it at all. Since late March, the government has also advised people to work from home if possible to help curb coronavirus. But last week, Mr Johnson signalled a change, saying, "I think we should go back to work if you can." Now, there's also second wave fears. So earlier this week, a report requested by Sir Patrick called for immediate action to reduce the risks posed by a second wave of coronavirus this winter. And one of his recommendations, they were increasing the capability of the test and trace programme, and they were getting more people vaccinated against flu. They also asked the model a responsible worst case scenario. Scientists suggested that a range of between 24,500 and 251,000 virus-related deaths in hospitals alone, beginning in January and February this year. The estimate does not take into account any lockdown treatment or, of course, vaccines as well. Here is a video now that we are going to play right here now.
Will there be a second wave of COVID-19 infections? Well, history certainly warns us to be on our guard. As far back as the Middle Ages, the Black Death came in waves. So too did later outbreaks of bubonic plague. A century ago, it was Spanish flu that devastated populations. And while exact numbers are hard to come by, it's generally agreed that the second wave of the pandemic killed substantially more people than the first. Healthcare systems were, of course, not nearly as good as they are now, nor was medical or information technology. More recently, second outbreaks of dangerous viruses like SARS or MERS have by and large been avoided, partly because they were less infectious than COVID-19. But other big flu pandemics, like the swine flu, have had second waves. So what does that mean for us now? For starters, no two viruses are exactly the same, and no epidemics of infectious diseases behave in precisely the same way. But we know infectious diseases spread when people who have the infection come into contact with people who don't. An outbreak will continue to grow as long as the average number of people infected by a person with the virus is greater than 1. That's what's known as the reproductive or R number, and keeping it below 1 is critically important, which is why measures such as social distancing and contact tracing will be part of all our lives for some time to come. We also need to know more about how long any immunity for COVID-19 might last amongst people who've already had it once. And we need to find out whether there's any significant seasonal variation in the way the virus spreads. Experts have warned of the danger of coronavirus re-emerging during the winter flu season in Europe and the United States, when health systems are already under huge pressure. They're also watching closely to see if the virus mutates to become more or less lethal. So there are a host of factors to take into account when trying to plan for a potential second wave. It's not certain that one will happen, and the early development of a reliable vaccine would be a game-changing moment. But until then, if mistakes are made when changing control measures, the virus could spread rapidly all over again.
There you go. So that was a video that was sent out this morning, funny enough, about it. So research has suggested that the virus can survive longer, couldn't it, in colder conditions, as more likely to spread, wouldn't it, though, when people spend more time indoors. Now, experts, what do they know? Experts, what do they know? What do experts know? Nothing. They're also concerned the energies will be under extreme pressure, and not just from a resurge of coronavirus, but also from a seasonal flu and a backlog of regular non-coronavirus workload. And number 10 said that the increased prevalence of seasonal illnesses was also likely to increase individuals' vulnerability of infection, particularly among the elderly. The potential for a rise in other responsibility viruses with similar symptoms also presents challenges for the capability of government's test and trace programme in Downing Street, and they also added that the Health Secretary Matt Hancock has already announced that plans for the biggest flu vaccination programme in history. Of course, it's in history. It's a big one. Absolutely big one. It's huge. And it's with expanded eligibility criteria expected to be set out very shortly. The British Medical Association Chairman Shadid Nagpal called for clarity of how the £3 billion funding will be used. The government talks of winter planning, but we need transparency, he said, on his included how far This money can stretch and is tackling a modelled worst-case forecast, including a second peak, additional non-COVID demand and a possible flu outbreak. Dr. Nagel said this, okay? He said, crucially, the government must make a position of priority and take every necessary step to try and avoid a national second spike of altogether. We've spoken about the spike. We spoke about it the other day. Now, NHS provides represents hospitals with other NHS organisations. He held the call for clarity over what